chosen one, before listening to these words, allow yourself to pause. Not because a secret is about to be revealed or an opportunity is about to disappear, but because you have lived for too long in a state of urgency, calculation, and the belief that you must hold everything together by yourself. Wherever you are, relax your shoulders, gently open your hands, and breathe a little more slowly. You do not need to force yourself to feel anything special. Neither must you prove that you are focused enough to deserve being heard by me. This quiet moment is simply a place where you are permitted to return to yourself. Recognize where you are tired, what you are afraid of, and which burdens you have carried for too long without ever putting them down. Archangel Michael, the faithful messenger, protector, and executor of my will, stands beside you as an image of calm courage. Michael does not come to make you anxious about what may happen, nor does he bring a warning that forces you to react immediately. His courage reminds you that sometimes the strongest action is not rushing forward, but stopping long enough to avoid continuing in exhaustion and confusion. I remain the Father who speaks directly to you. And what I want to offer today is not excitement over some great event, but an invitation to sit down, rest, and look upon your journey with gentler eyes. You have carried something very heavy for a long time. It is not only the pressure of work, family, money, or relationships that have exhausted you. What has made you even more tired is the feeling of not knowing whether all your effort has any meaning. You tried to preserve faith during days when no answer appeared. You continued doing what was right, even while results remained unseen. You prayed in rooms so quiet that you wondered whether your words were being heard at all. There were mornings when you woke without finding a strong enough reason to hope, yet you still rose, worked, cared for others, and tried not to let sorrow make you bitter. I saw those mornings. I saw you sitting silently before everyone else awakened, gathering enough strength to enter another day. I saw the times when you washed your face for a long while so that no one would realize you had been crying. I saw you answer that you were fine, because you did not want your loved ones to worry, even though inwardly you desperately needed somewhere to lean. I do not want you to believe that you must endure beautifully in order to earn my love. You do not need to accumulate more pain to prove your faithfulness. Yet I want you to understand that the good choices you made during difficult days did not become meaningless, simply because no one else saw them. Not every difficult year was deliberately arranged by me to test you. Some things arose from human imperfection, wrong choices, injustice, illness, loss, and circumstances beyond your control. I do not call what hurt you good, nor do I require you to give thanks for having been wounded. Yet, even within what I never desired for you to experience, you can still discover lessons that help you live more wisely. You may recognize how long you neglected yourself, whom you trusted too quickly, which responsibilities you carried for others, and how greatly fear of rejection influenced your decisions. Perhaps you once believed that maturity had to look like an obvious victory. You imagined a day when everyone would see how strong you had become. A great door would open, and every former pain would suddenly be explained. Yet maturity often appears very quietly. It is when you no longer answer an insult with something sharper. It is when you recognize that someone is trying to draw you back into a familiar argument and choose to step away. It is when you learn to rest before reaching complete exhaustion, ask for help before everything collapses, and say no to what repeatedly steals your peace. These changes may not astonish anyone, but they are making your life steadier. I know you have become deeply accustomed to doing. You believe that if you do not keep trying, everything will stop. If you do not consider every possibility, you will be caught unprepared. And if you do not hold on tightly, what is precious will leave your hands. Yet some things cannot be built through tension. A healthy relationship cannot grow if you are always afraid of being abandoned. Good work cannot remain a source of life if you allow it to consume all your health and joy. Wise decisions rarely arise from a mind that is already exhausted. Therefore, sitting down is not laziness. Rest is not surrender. Sometimes it is how you stop making a situation more confusing and give yourself the opportunity to see what busyness has hidden. You do not need to capture the future by thinking without rest. Neither can you control everything that will enter your life. What you can do is prepare yourself to recognize what is right when it appears. Such preparation is not only learning new skills, working diligently, or building plans, although these things are necessary. It is also learning not to allow temporary emotions to make long-term decisions. It is knowing the difference between a beautiful promise and a person with trustworthy character. It is understanding that what excites you is not necessarily good for you, and that peace can sometimes be more trustworthy than intensity. I do not promise that something overwhelmingly great is rushing toward you and will overturn your entire present life. Such promises may excite you, but they may also pull you away from the present and make you consider what you already possess insignificant. I want you to live with a more deeply rooted hope. Goodness may come in many forms: a fitting opportunity, a sincere relationship, a decision that helps you leave an old cycle, or the gradual return of peace after a long period of instability. Sometimes change comes not through receiving something new, but through gaining enough courage to set down a burden that no longer belongs to you. Not one morning when you tried to live kindly should be considered wasted. Days without visible results can still teach you discipline. Times of waiting can reveal what you have depended upon. Periods of silence can uncover thoughts you used noise to conceal. Yet do not romanticize delay. If something can be acted upon, act. If you need to have a conversation, speak. If your body is giving unusual signals, seek proper care. If a relationship is causing harm, find safety. Waiting has meaning only when it does not become an excuse for avoiding responsibility. I saw the times when you asked, "Am I walking the wrong road? Will these years ever lead anywhere? Will what I have prayed for ever come?" You do not need to feel ashamed of these questions. Faith does not mean never feeling confused. Trust does not mean always feeling certain. On some days, faith is simply the decision to do the next right thing. Even though you cannot see the whole road, you do not need to know how your life will change years from now in order to care for today. You only need to see the step before you. A call that needs to be made, a task that needs to be completed, an apology that needs to be spoken, or a boundary that needs to be established. The burdens you carried did more than exhaust you. Sometimes they caused you to forget that you also have the right to receive. You became accustomed to giving, caring, solving, and standing forward whenever someone needed you. When another person wanted to support you, you became uncomfortable or feared becoming a burden. My beloved child, receiving help does not make you weak. You do not need to become deserving before you are allowed to rest, be loved, or be heard. Permit someone trustworthy to sit beside you. Let your family know that you are tired. Allow a professional to assist when the problem exceeds your ability. I can care for you through human hands, knowledge, friendship, and very ordinary things you once overlooked. Your silent faithfulness does not mean that you must continue enduring everything without speaking. Some forms of silence help you become calm, while other forms allow wrongdoing to continue. I want you to learn the difference. When an argument has become nothing more than a place where people hurt one another, you may stop. Yet, when truth, safety, or dignity is threatened, you need to speak calmly and seek help. Preserving peace does not mean accepting disrespect. Forgiveness does not mean reopening every door. Love does not require you to sacrifice yourself until you no longer recognize who you are. There are things you prayed for over a long period that have not been answered in the form you expected. Perhaps you are still grieving a door that did not open, a person who did not return, or a plan that did not succeed. I do not require you to pretend to be grateful immediately. You have the right to grieve and need time to adjust, yet do not place your entire future upon one outcome. The ending of one road does not mean your life has no other road. One person leaving does not prove you are unworthy of love. One failure does not erase the abilities still within you. Let your hope be broader than one door, one person, or one moment. I know you want to understand why you had to pass through all these things. Some answers will become clear only after many years. Other things in your life may never receive a complete explanation. Peace does not always come when you understand every reason. Sometimes it comes when you accept that you do not need to understand everything in order to continue. You can carry a question without allowing it to become an anchor. You can acknowledge that something was unfair, while still refusing to let that injustice determine your whole identity. If you are hoping for something new, prepare room for it by reorganizing what you already have. Do not only pray for a healthy relationship while continuing to remain connected to someone who repeatedly destroys your peace. Do not desire better work while refusing to learn something new or prepare your application. Do not expect financial stability while refusing to examine your expenses and obligations. Do not seek a quiet mind while consuming content every day that makes you fearful and dependent. Preparation is not an attempt to control the future. It is caring for the present, so that when something good comes, you can recognize and preserve it responsibly. Prepare yourself through forgiveness as well. Forgiving the person who hurt you does not mean calling their behavior right. It means you do not want to carry them into every future decision. You can forgive while maintaining distance. You can release the desire for revenge while still requiring accountability. Forgive yourself too, for the times when you chose from fear, remained too long, or failed to speak sooner. The person you were then did the best they could with the understanding they had. Today you know more, so choose differently instead of continuing to condemn yourself. Michael remains an image of protection and courage beneath my will, reminding you that open hands are not powerless hands. When you open your hands, you stop gripping what cannot be controlled. You no longer try to hold someone who wants to leave, cling to a plan that no longer fits, or spend all your strength protecting your image in the eyes of others. An open hand can release, but it can also receive. It can ask for help, work, care, and give without trying to possess my beloved child. When your prayer is no longer filled with pleading and calculation as it once was, this does not necessarily mean that you have lost faith. Perhaps You are learning how to remain quietly before me without using many words to control what you cannot understand. I know this change once made you anxious. In the past, you often came to me with a long list of things to be solved, doors that needed to open, and people you wanted to change. You prayed with all your strength, then wondered whether you had said enough, been sincere enough, or needed to repeat everything many more times in order to be heard. Gradually, however, stillness began to appear. On some days, you simply sat there without knowing what to say. Sometimes you sighed, placed your worries down, and allowed silence to speak. You thought you were too tired to pray. But I want you to understand that a prayer does not become insignificant because it contains few words. Sometimes a sincere sigh carries more truth than a long speech born from panic. Archangel Michael, the faithful messenger, protector, and executor of my will, stands as an image of courage that knows when to lower its weapons because the battle is no longer necessary. Michael does not come to urge you to speak more, try harder, or prove that you deserve my attention. Through the image of this steadfast angel, I want you to remember that strength is not found only in advancing, but also in the ability to stop struggling with what you cannot control. I remain the Father who listens directly to you. I do not need you to bargain with me, nor do I love you more because you pleaded for a long time. What I desire is honesty. When you hurt, say that you hurt. When you are afraid, admit that you are afraid. When you have no words, simply remain. Honest presence is more precious than perfect language. There were seasons when you prayed like someone holding tightly to a rope, afraid that if you loosened your grip, everything would disappear. You tried to preserve a relationship, a plan, an outcome, and a particular image of the future. You did not only ask for something good, you wanted the good thing to arrive exactly as you imagined. Yet, when a hand grips too tightly, it also becomes exhausted. You lose the strength to notice other roads, fail to see what is already present, and cannot receive help because you remain attached to one outcome. An open hand is not a hand surrendering in despair. It is a hand saying, I still hope, but I no longer force everything to happen according to my will. I will do what I can and lay down the rest. Resting does not mean becoming passive. If you are praying for work, you still need to learn, prepare, and seek opportunities. If you desire a relationship to heal, you still need to speak honestly, accept responsibility, and establish boundaries. If you are facing a health concern, you still need to seek appropriate care. Resting means refusing to allow the outcome to determine your whole worth. You act without panic. You make an effort without tormenting yourself when progress is slow. You pray without treating prayer as an exchange in which you must do enough to force me to respond. You learn that you can live kindly even while the answer has not arrived, and continue walking without seeing the entire road. I know there are times when silence in prayer simply means that you are deeply exhausted. If so, do not force yourself to turn tiredness into something mysterious. Rest, eat, care for your body, and seek support when needed. Sometimes you cannot speak because you have carried too much alone. At such times, allow someone trustworthy to enter. Faith does not require isolation. You may turn to loved ones, community, or a professional without making your love for me smaller. I can strengthen you through conversation, counsel, care, and very ordinary things. Do not call every form of exhaustion a lofty spiritual sign while ignoring your practical needs. Recently, you may also have noticed a desire to withdraw from certain people and familiar spaces. You may want to appear less often in noisy places and participate less in conversations centered on comparison, judgment, and argument. Perhaps you felt guilty and wondered whether you were becoming cold or difficult. My beloved child, needing private space is not wrong. There are times when you need to withdraw your attention in order to hear what is happening within, reorganize your priorities, and recover after a period of overload. Yet remember that healthy withdrawal is different from locking every door because you fear being hurt. A good period of rest helps you return to people with greater calmness. Unhealthy isolation causes you to become increasingly suspicious, hopeless, and disconnected from relationships that could support you. Honestly examine what is motivating your withdrawal. Do you need rest, or are you hoping others will notice your absence and chase after you? Are you protecting peace, or using silence as punishment? Are you leaving an unhealthy environment, or merely avoiding a difficult but necessary conversation? These questions will help you discern. If you need distance, tell someone trustworthy that you need time. Do not turn disappearance into a test of love. If a relationship needs repair, find a calm time for conversation. If a place repeatedly damages your dignity, you may leave without creating a story that everyone is against you. Being set apart for a season does not mean that you are greater than people in another season. It may simply mean that you need a different rhythm, different conversations, and different boundaries in order to grow. Someone who suited one stage of your life may no longer walk as closely beside you. But that does not make them bad. Some relationships fulfill their role and gradually change. Some friendships need distance so that both people can grow. You may have belonged to a community whose values now differ from your own. Be grateful for the goodness you received. Do not demean those from whom you are moving away, and do not try to force them onto a road they are not ready to travel. A new community may appear, but do not search for people who possess some mysterious frequency like yours. Look for people with healthy character, people who listen, respect differences, do not exploit vulnerability, and are willing to speak truth with kindness. Seek a place where you are both supported and reminded to accept responsibility. A healthy community does not only praise you, make you think you are more special than others, or isolate you from family and ordinary life. It helps you become more upright, humble, generous, and capable of serving well. Healthy belonging does not require you to lose yourself, but neither does it allow you to live only according to personal emotion. I do not need you to write a number or a public declaration to prove that you understand. No comment makes your process complete more quickly. What confirms transformation is the way you live after leaving this moment. Can you choose silence when speech would only increase conflict? Can you speak when truth and safety need protection? Will you actively seek good people with whom to walk, or continue locking yourself in loneliness? Will you use private space for healing, or only to nurture bitterness? These choices reveal whether your withdrawal is leading to maturity or merely prolonging pain. There are times when you feel deep peace, accompanied by sorrow you cannot name. You may not be grieving one particular event. You simply feel that something familiar is slowly leaving your life. I understand this feeling. Every ending can create emptiness, even if it is the ending you once prayed for. You may have asked for freedom from an unhealthy relationship, but when that person is truly absent, you still miss them. You may have wanted to leave work that exhausted you, yet when you finally go, You still grieve the years, routines, and people connected to it. You may know that an old version of yourself must be laid down, yet still mourn, because that version once helped you survive. Such sorrow does not prove that you chose wrongly. Peace and grief can exist together. You can know you are moving in the right direction, while still crying over what has ended. Growth does not require numbness. Permit yourself to grieve without returning to an old cycle merely to avoid emptiness. Sometimes you miss a person, but what you actually miss is familiarity. Sometimes you miss a season, not because it was good, but because you knew how to live within it. An unknown future frightens you, so even a painful past can seem safer. Understand this, so that you do not confuse longing with an invitation to return. The ending of an old chapter does not mean that the entire former story was wrong. It may contain beautiful moments, people who genuinely loved you, and valuable lessons. You do not need to deny every memory in order to move forward. Preserve what was good, accept responsibility for your mistakes, and set down what cannot be carried farther. A book does not become worthless because one chapter has ended. Yet you cannot keep reading the same page and expect the story to progress. The time comes when you must turn the page, even if your hands tremble, and you do not know what the next lines will say. What opens before you may not be a completely different life without difficulty or days of doubt. It may simply be a new way of living in the same world, no longer begging for clarity from someone who remains vague, no longer working to exhaustion to prove your worth, and no longer keeping people close through excessive sacrifice. A new chapter is not a glamorous revision of the old one. It is written through different choices. Speaking truth sooner, establishing clearer boundaries, resting before complete exhaustion, and seeking support instead of carrying everything alone. I do not promise that what comes next will be greater than everything you have imagined. I only want you to know that life can become more beautiful when you stop building it upon foundations that once hurt you. The future may be more ordinary than you imagined, but ordinary does not mean meaningless. A peaceful home, relationships built on respect, work performed with integrity, and a mind no longer engaged in constant battle can be profound gifts. Do not despise a peaceful life merely because it does not astonish the crowd. Use this season to learn how to be alone without becoming isolated. Reduce the noise while maintaining contact with those who genuinely care. Spend time in prayer while also speaking with someone who can help you see more clearly. Care for your private plans without closing yourself to every form of guidance. Healthy independence does not mean needing no one. It means choosing companionship instead of clinging because of fear. You may need others while preserving dignity. You may open your heart while maintaining boundaries. You may belong to a community without losing your voice. Forgive those who cannot accompany you into the next season. Perhaps they do not understand your transformation. Perhaps they want you to return to the version who was easier to control or always available to meet their needs. Do not retaliate, and do not try to prove that you have grown beyond them. Say what needs to be said, wish them peace, and keep the proper distance. Forgiveness does not require renewed closeness. It helps you move forward without carrying the argument into every day. Forgive yourself for taking a long time to realize that change was needed. The person you were in the past used the methods they knew to find love, security, and belonging. Sometimes those methods were unhealthy, yet they helped you endure a particular season. Now you do not need to hate that former self. Thank them for bringing you this far, and say that you have learned better ways. You no longer need to please everyone in order to be allowed to remain. You do not need to hide sorrow in order to be considered strong. You do not have to lose yourself in order to belong somewhere. Michael remains an image of protection and courage beneath my will, reminding you that stepping away from what is familiar requires strength, while stepping into something new also requires humility. You do not yet know everyone you will meet, every opportunity that will appear, or all that you will need to learn. Keep your mind open without becoming gullible. Hope without ignoring truth. Allow time to reveal another person's character and the results of choices. Not everything new is good, just as not everything old must be discarded. Discernment helps you preserve what is precious and release what has completed its purpose. Now set down the need to know exactly what the next chapter will contain. You do not need to see the ending in order to begin. Do what is already clear. Rest when tired. Speak honestly when needed. Leave useless arguments. Care for your work, and open your heart to sincere people. Every such choice is a new line. Do not wait until you feel completely ready, because you may never feel that way. Readiness often means only that you no longer desire to continue living according to the former pattern. Then let your heart return to peace. If you are sad today, do not rush to correct the feeling. Sit with it, listen, and allow it to pass. If you feel relief, be grateful without fearing that the joy will be taken away. If you do not yet know where you belong, patiently build a kind life where you are. Lasting belonging often begins when you become honest with yourself and then move toward people who can love that truth without requiring you to perform. I am with you when prayer becomes only a breath, when your hands open, and when an old chapter closes through tears. I do not force you to run from sorrow, nor do I pressure you to rejoice over the future. Take one step at a time. Be grateful, because you have learned how to release hope. Because an ending does not end your ability to love and build. Trust, not because you know everything that will happen, but because you know you can face tomorrow with greater wisdom than yesterday. My beloved child, pray freely, rest without shame, and step away from relationships that are no longer healthy without turning anyone into an enemy. Allow sorrow to farewell the old chapter, but do not let it write the new one in your place. Let peace hold your hand when you do not know the road. And let gratitude remind you that even within emptiness, many precious things remain. The future does not need to be extraordinary according to the world's measurement. If you become more honest, more forgiving, more steadfast, and more determined each day to live kindly, the next chapter can already